Okay. Good afternoon and happy Valentine's Day to everyone in Zoom land and here. Okay, welcome, and this is a joint hearing with the Committees on Water, Land, and the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. Just some housekeeping measures for today, which is for every day while we're in session for 4 months. Just to remind everybody, for those testifiers, and particularly those in Zoom land, we ask that you stand on your written testimony or continue on with a 1-minute testimony as well. And to let you know that this context, including the hearing notice, copies of the bills and testimony can be found on the legislature's website. The live video stream and archive of this hearing can be found on the Senate's YouTube channel. Okay, we got our committee with Economic Development and Tourism. We'd like to say aloha, and we'll proceed with SB 2203. This is relating to the Land Use Commission, applies permissible uses within agriculture districts to counties having specific population levels. Okay. I see our good friend there, Mary Alice Evans, for Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Aloha.
Thank you, chairs and vice chairs. For this bill, our testimony says we'd be very happy to have this move forward if on page 5, lines 7, 8, and 9 could be amended to read, shall apply only to a county that has adopted ordinances regulating agricultural tourism.
Okay, Mary Alice, can you point that, move that microphone, yeah. Okay. Can you repeat that? I think you're a little too quiet for our those on Zoom lens as well.
Okay. So I'll use my friendly outdoor voice, if that's
okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
So we're offering comments because we have a recommendation for an amendment that we think would make this bill very helpful, and that would be that on page 5 in subsection 14, it would read, this paragraph shall apply only to a county that has adopted ordinances regulating agricultural tourism activities pursuant to 205. Subsection 5. Thank you.
Okay, so actually you're asking to delete the population then of the 500,000, so applies to everyone. Okay, mahalo. Okay.
Chair, quick question.
Yes, sure.
Sorry, jump in there.
Yes.
What county? I'm sorry.
Senator McKelvey.
Thank you, sorry, Chair. What counties have adopted this ordinance? I mean,
I think several have. And
can you
so-
name them for me? Just off the top of your head?
No, I can't.
Okay, you're honest, I like that. Thank you for that, appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
okay.
it would assure that agricultural tourism activities would take place where a county has created an appropriate for their county ordinance that governs it.
Okay, but they still go through the district boundary amendment and all that to do ag tourism on ag lands, or?
They can do it now, except that there's a limitation to a county with 3 islands, which means Maui can do it. But the other 3
Mary Alice, you have to speak
counties,
into
I'm
the
sorry,
mic.
the other
Yeah.
3 counties under this section of Chapter 205 cannot. And we think that all 4 counties ought to have an even playing field should they choose to have a ordinance that regulates agricultural tourism.
All right, thank you.
And I think City Honolulu adopted something, I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Honolulu, previous years ago, when we started talking about ag tourism, I know at that time, agriculture activities, all the farmers voted against activities. And purely for the fact that the disturbance of their activity as well on their farms. And the requirement at that time also was to make sure that if you're going to enjoy visitors, that you have bathrooms you know, all kinds of activities, and the adjoining properties, if it was in a farm lots, that the neighbor wouldn't want visitors on visiting around
Which
or
is
whatever.
what a county would regulate by setting those criteria and standards.
And excellent, and it gives them the
Or
opportunity if
not.
they want to.
If they didn't choose to do so, that would
Exactly.
be a county choice.
Okay, any further discussions? Otherwise, Department of Ag. We put the burden on you guys all the time.
Yes, thank you, chairs, vice chairs, and members. Dexter Kishida, Hawaii Department of Agriculture, and we offer comments on this. We support agritourism when it's on land that it's a bona fide farmer actually farming, and this is secondary income. Then yes, we want our folks to make money, but they have to be farming first. And so we do want the counties to keep in mind two things drawn from Section 205. One, agritourism or agricultural tourism is conducted on or coexist with a farming operation or bona fide agricultural activity. And two, that it is an accessory and secondary to the principal agricultural use. And I believe this is really directed to Kauai, Maui, and Hawaii counties. Thank you.
Okay. County of Hawaii, Office of the Mayor, sends communication in support. Zendo Kern, County of Hawaii Planning Department, in support. OHA, they said they were going to be here in person, has communications, comments as well. Members, any questions? Okay, yes, Senator Favela. DOA, okay, thank you.
So, for the agriculture, will this, use, be, sorry, in this bill, have any negative impact on ag lands?
If the two provisions are included, they need to be a bona fide farmer, one, and two, this is used as secondary income, their primary income is from farming, then there wouldn't be any, or we don't see any other negative ramifications from this.
So their secondary income will be ag.
No, primary is ag.
Primary is ag.
Agritourism would be their secondary
Okay,
income.
so then, how will you enforce?
The provisions are directed to the counties who would be adopting this, because they do the enforcement.
Oh, Honolulu County not doing too good in Cuneo, so I don't know if I can trust them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, and, yes, yes, Chair.
So Dexter, so if agritourism, which is kind of like value adding, right? So
Great way.
you know that the primary producing farm value added will be more than the farm itself, yeah? The
Correct, the dollars
Priority
would
one.
be, it's really their primary use though. So if there's very little production happening, but a monstrous facility that's absorbing from everywhere else, then that's what we're trying to avoid. So even in this, if it is an activity that only the residual or kind of the second thought is agriculture, then that's where we're saying we need some guardrails on this. That yes, they should be able to still make money, but on agricultural land, they should be growing, raising things is the primary activity instead of tourism type activities.
Yeah, I do know
Correct.
that south side of Kailua Kona are coffee fields. There are some who are part of ag tourism. And I understand they do very well because it's controlled. They have things, the amenities that's supposed to be on the properties, like restrooms and, parking spaces for the buses or additional parking areas for the individual tourist destinations. But I know they do well. I've been there on one property who's doing well, and it's well controlled for that particular activity.
Right.
And it's different because it's so different from other farms and activities. I know the floral industry don't care for visitors, and mainly not because they don't want to participate, but because of the viruses and the activities that they've experienced with the anthurium blights and other things that there's quality controls, and you can't do that with too many visitors. You can do it with your maintenance crew, but not welcomed. And it's not healthy in a sense for vegetable growers, I would think.
With food
So,
safety, there might
Yeah,
be
so
some
the county's
challenges.
got to do their controls. Yeah.
Correct, make great points. Thank you,
I'm
Senator.
sorry, continue.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I think that's the biggest question. The county get hard time controlling anything in their purview. We get illegal vacation rentals, we get gentlemen estates. I mean, I'm sure Big Island does well with their enforcement, and I'm sure Kauai too. But in Maui, it's just like, this is a free fall.
Yeah.
So I kind of worried about that.
The maybe stricter guardrails are needed.
The stricter guardrails
to
will definitely
ensure.
be needed because we have a lot of the gentleman estates that will also put on kukui nut tree. They will file a general excise tax at 25,000, even if they're not making them to get the ag designation. I would rather pay the 0.5% tax, but then running one tourism where it's encroaching on the residents around them, as well as, farms that have been violated by trespassing and then theft.
Correct, and that is where that second point, that if this activity is affecting neighboring farms, it shouldn't be allowed.
And more so, I think, it's not just the neighboring farms, but it's the neighbors in
Or neighbors,
general.
correct. Good
That
point.
The complaint has come to us where it is just crossing into my property. While they're having a wedding, in pasture, and, the residents are not happy at all, so.
And then it does, that
I
hurts,
appreciate the guardrails on it, so,
it hurts agriculture a lot in that, right?
thank you.
Understood,
Thank you, Chair.
You do have a couple of recommendations
correct.
for amendments. I'm sorry.
No, she hit the
Okay,
nail on the head.
Senator Favela.
Yes, I guess not rails, maybe we gotta put up walls. The reason why I bring this up
taken.
is because some of the properties is all ag. And they do a zip line, and they get more ag land, but they're doing zip line, and they get 300 to 400 people coming across, like how Senator Decoy said, to go to this attraction. See, I get a hard time because I can tell you right now, in my community, the city fails us, big time. We get agricultural land, get mansions on the mountain. Mansions, take a drive out there. You think that was a legitimate subdivision. So we're gonna have the cities put this in parameters when the permitting department and all of those guys not even enforcing all the illegal structures. So I have a hard time with because having guardrails is nothing. You're gonna have to put up walls.
Because the
Appreciate
enforcement,
it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay.
Mahalo.
Okay, yes.
Well, maybe we can entertain the idea if the counties don't enforce them, then we find the counties. Should we add that section inside here? Something-
I don't know if I have the authority to make that bold statement, but I do understand, because all of these things that you're mentioning hurt our farmers. And so we've got to bring ag land into ag production, and that means not just a tree or a horse in a house,
So we're
as you're
talking
mentioning.
about enforcement then.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about
Yeah,
enforcement.
we
You got,
should,
you got a situation in Kaanapali where you got quote coffee farms where people have luxury mansions on them, and the people working these coffee farms don't even live anywhere near that place.
Staff, see if you can add some enforcement, but rather than the committee report, we'd like to make sure it's enforced, so somehow looking into the bill. Yeah,
And Chair, also that we should think about putting in there, this is prime A agricultural land. That's where the city is lacking, and the Department of Planning and Permitting. When Ho'opili came up, took them 10 years, and that wasn't even A land, that was B, C land. But they took 20 years before they could even put up one infrastructure. This is A land, and the city been knowing that when they first built 3 houses. Now they get 103 houses, and still nothing is being done on A land. That is a disgusting thing to hear, what they're doing to our land. In Kunia, if you don't know what that is.
We
Yeah,
can,
thank you.
we can
Thank you,
probably
Chester.
address that in the committee report.
Appreciate
That
it.
his activities, not, I think, and I believe, I think Mary Alice, there was another measure moving along, I'm not sure if it was this year or last year, where that was included in one of the ag bills, some activities. Can we do that? That we can do in the bill, right? Okay, come on up, yeah.
So 205 doesn't have, it has only one enforcement tool, and that is it can revert lands that have been redistricted to urban or rural or conservation back to ag. That's its only tool. That's just because it's that chapter. If the counties have the enforcement policies, now, yes, there's no guarantee that they will be, as strong as you might like, but they have many more tools for enforcement. They can levy fines, they can issue notices of violation, which the Land Use Commission cannot do under 205.
Yeah, but the counties are asking for this bill as well.
Yeah.
So can we perhaps strengthen then part of a 205, chapter 205?
I think Dexter's suggestions are really good, and you can
That
put
should
those.
take care of it.
You can put those in 205,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we don't even have personnel to enforce it. LUC doesn't have their own police running around, right? Or inspectors.
But we should note, though, that enforcement of these activities are borne by the counties and their responsibility. Okay, let's move on then. Thank you so much. We'll move on to SB 2789 relating to land use, and this permits film production on lands that are zoned for agriculture use, as well as establishes the Agriculture Film Production Land Use Oversight Committee to monitor and enforce compliance with regulations on film permit activities on agriculture zoned lands. More activities. Okay. OPSD? Okay, mahalo. Department of Ag.
The department also stands on our written testimony, making comments and an amendment to the objection.
Okay, members, if you want to, please ask those that are, I called for testifying, you can ask questions as well. Yes, Senator McCarthy.
Haven't seen Georgia in a while.
Okay, excuse me, we will call her, she's next.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yes, but if you wanted to speak to the first two.
No.
Okay,
I'll wait for
all
you.
right. Okay, here we go. City and County, let's see, Department, DBED, Georgia Skinner. Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha, good afternoon, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Georgia Skinner, Creative Industries, DVED. We understand the intent of this, we support that, but there are some issues I think that we need to work through with our counterparts in the departments, both Department of Ag and OPSD. There's some nuances to this that I think also involve the counties. And so we think more work needs to be done. A little concerned about the Oversight Committee, that it might be another layer of concern. So working with Mary Alice and our team at Department of Ag, we'd like to work a little further on this measure.
Okay, but can you tell us though, with this measure, what are the problems we're trying to solve?
Yeah,
And reason I say that is because I didn't realize there were issues, because the counties pretty much are the ones that, I guess, are allowed to do the permitting process, right?
yeah, state and
Yeah,
county.
and so it's borne on the counties as, so, and we've had experiences on Big Island as well, but I would, we need to look at the overall state activities as well, and that's our role. And so I was just, with your experience, so creating another commission would be a problem.
Well, it seems to be, and in talking with our film office, Sandy Ichihara Abe is here today as well. Just wanted to point her out. And speaking with OPSD, We already have in place special use permits. There are also the film permit function. And I think this came about because there were some concerns on Hawaii Island with a particular production that wasn't able to use ag lands, but that was because they were renting a house on the ag land. And as I understand it from Mary Alice, that is the nexus of the challenge in that case. So you cannot really use a standard film permit for the state for ag lands. So that's, I think, where we're trying to get to is how do we make this equitable, especially there might be additional revenue for farmers or people that own those lands, landowners, ranchers, that may want to offer their sites for film production, but temporary film production, not a permanent situation, not building something. This is only a temporary use, but the length of time, as we understand it, for even the county of Hawaii is quite lengthy, almost 6 months to a year. Don't quote me on that. I believe you have a testifier coming up from the planning office on Hawaii Island who's much more well-versed in that regard.
That was in my district.
Yes.
And I remember that well, a $5 million home in ag land.
Yeah.
However, for that particular area though, with that home on the Hamakua coast, not too much of an activity next door or abutting the farms, but you had residential areas.
Correct.
So the activity, actually, to me, it's born on the county when they allowed
Understood.
that to happen. And so there was one road that ends up where the home is, that was used to film, had to go through all the residences prior to, at the outset. So, and doing activities and, we have, and that home accommodated the participants, the actors as well. And so, and it was really, actually in the Hamakua coast, there was no bar close by. So the activities were like, oftentimes the cars would go back and forth. Either they went drinking in Hanaka'a or went out to Hilo Town. So the activities for the neighbors was like,
Very disruptive.
very disruptive. So that was the activity
That was-
that it could be brought up, but I remember it well because my phones were ringing from my constituents in the region.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the goal, though, Chair, is to be able to provide temporary film permitting use on beautiful agriculture lands that are maybe not complete farms at this point, but are offering beautiful vistas on all islands. And we do see that the county has a jurisdictional responsibility as well as the state, depending on, the situation. But we know from a couple of farmers that, and landowners, they were interested.
And I think with the way the measure is written as well, it's creating the commission, but already the counties are responsible.
Correct.
And that's why we have, Hawaii has always been in the forefront for activities for the film industry and to visit our special islands.
Yes.
And so, okay, the questions for Georgia Skinner members.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. So, Georgia, what type of permit or approval do the film companies have to get now to film on ag land? So currently, it's a state film permit, but there are conditions, and Sandy's a little more knowledgeable about this. Perhaps she could assist.
Okay, and this is Sandy. Why don't you come up?
Sandy
Come up.
Ichihara Abe, our acting film manager,
Okay,
because I don't want to misspeak.
sure.
Hi.
Hi, aloha.
Hi.
Introduce yourself.
My name
please.
is Sandy Ichihara Abe. I'm with the Hawaii Film Office. So the question is about film permits that
Yes.
the production needs.
Yes.
So we do have the film permit process, and we do work with various departments. So for ag land, we would send it out to whoever has jurisdiction. And if it's approved, they come back with conditions. And the conditions are different for every permit because the needs are different. And so we go through that process.
So what are the ag lands is DHHL lands? And then the beneficiary has the lease to the land. Do you need the beneficiary's approval as well as DHHL, or?
I
does that
have
work?
not dealt with that one. The ones that I'm familiar with is, we've gone through DLNR, so we go through DLNR, and if someone has a revocable permit, we would work with the holder for that.
Can you find out, because I think,
For
if-
DHHL?
If their activities
Yeah.
allowed on
Okay,
DHHL lands.
we can.
because I know if they get on license, if an individual has a license on DHHL, that all approval has to go back through DHHL. But I'm wondering if a 99-year lease, that is, person is the homesteader that decides, hey, I wanna allow for filming,
Okay.
to give the picture of what agriculture does, in sustainable doubling of food production. How would that process take place? If you can get back to the
Okay,
committee on
yeah,
that.
yes,
we'll get
we
back to
can
you with
ask.
that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, my understanding is the counties, they don't issue film permits for private property. Is that correct? Maybe we should ask the counties?
As far as I know.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
You're testifying later? Okay, we'll ask you that question then. Thank you. Okay, any further discussions?
Yeah.
Senator Favela?
So just going forward, I remember we had the conversation because Parker Ranch wanted to do on filming, right?
Correct.
Commission was talking to the commission. So is this gonna combine the state with the city having one friend, united permitting things so that we can get things done on a quicker?
more efficient way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
The
is the
reason why,
goal.
yeah, because the reason why I bring this up is because some of the film had stopped, and you know this, Joya. The state has everything, the film production went out there, prep, everything like that, and then the city pulls the permit. That costs us a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you know what show I'm talking about. Costs a lot of money for prepping, thousands and thousands of dollars, and the city pulls the permit and they're stuck. I'm not sure if this is in this bill. I have problem with certain things on ag land, but we need to make sure that when we put out permits for the city and state, that it's unified, so that one entity from another entity don't cancel it. Because we lost a big production, I'm not sure if you know, Senator, for Parker Ranch. It was gonna be a
That's
big
my district.
series, and we lost it because of the permitting situation. So that's what I wanted to know, if that's what's gonna be able to mend it together. And my rest of my questions will be for ag.
I think, thank you so much. I do see that that we know that there's a need for more integrated, and we are working with our film offices on the counties, our teams now together, right, to be able to look at integrated permitting, especially in an online site. That's really critical in many islands, and not only Hawaii Island, but opportunities like this that are clean industry that come. We need to do our best as the people supervising these things to make sure that there's no hiccups along the way, no compromises. And again, with county jurisdiction, the state doesn't normally want to tell them what to do. That is not our goal, but to work together in partnership to be able to move these things forward. And we know from Doug Adams and others on Hawaii Island that they are concerned about these things. So we have the dialogue going in our MOA in place. So we're working on that.
Just one follow-up. So when the mayors change, not like ours, our film president for this mayor been here from 1882, but anyway, just joking. Anyway, but like when the mayors changed, the commission changed something, right? The city, like the neighbor islands. Because this is different people that's running it now, but she wants to work with you guys and get things going. So when the mayors change, usually that person changes too, right, on the neighbor
Not all
islands.
the time. The civil service position on Hawaii Island remains. It is a civil service. It's not appointed. And certainly, Valea can speak to her long-term reign, as you will, at the Honolulu Film Office. The Maui County and Kauai are appointed.
Yeah, I was only joking about the 1882. No.
I know, I understand that. Thank you very
You know what I
much.
mean, right? Because it'd be good to have the collaboration for, like how she been here a long time. You guys can work together and get things done. for the
Very
community.
important.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. So are we
Senator
talking,
Kim.
are we talking about more short-term type of permits or
Yes.
long-term permits?
Short term.
So what happens in the long-term permits?
Well, temporary in nature is what the film production industry is. So long-term, would you define that as like 2 months
Well,
or?
say you have Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, because we went and revisited
Right.
in New Zealand, where they went back and refilmed, but they filmed over a longer period of time. And then, and I'm, that was on pasture land because they had the farmhouse up and all the sheep still around that area. But then the second round, they ended up keeping all the sets, and then it became another industry.
A value add.
Because the tourists now are coming, and so value added. So I'm just wondering how would something like that work? Because when we did Kauai and we did the dinosaurs, right? They took everything out, which that could have been a value added.
Well, there are many tours on Kauai, but for Jurassic and all
Right,
those.
Jurassic Park.
But I think some of the dinosaurs made their way to Kualoa, so.
So what's the,
So I think
Chair,
the,
what's the issue though? I mean,
No, so I'm wondering if this addresses long-term type permits, like,
Something like that.
Something like that, where they invest a lot into all of the props and building on the land and so forth, then what happens to it? Or are they even allowed to do that?
not on a film permit, and that would be another jurisdiction other than DBITS.
for the counties.
What
Yeah,
would it
and the
be?
counties, yes.
What would it be if it's a longer term? Ag tourism? So there's a difference between ag tourism and film permits? Maybe therein lies some of the
Well-
problems when there's no coordination, or I mean, not no coordination, but where
No,
they're
it's-
different entities.
Well, that's a good suggestion too, because we have this measure before us and we can add language.
Well, that's why I'm just
Yeah.
asking, because.
Yeah, because this is the county's bill, and so if we need to change or some recommendations, because we also want enforcement, but we also want the film industry to.
Correct.
To
Flourish.
really gain, and they're doing well, and Hawaii has always been attractive, but
Yeah.
I can see that, and with regards to Senator Favela's earlier question with regards to Parker Ranch, and those areas are huge. I mean,
Yes.
and if you do filming on Parker Ranch, can you imagine it's
Well, we
pretty
could have done
much.
Yellowstone and
Yeah.
Parker Ranch.
Yeah, exactly, and, keeping,
You're a writer on that.
yeah, keeping part of the production equipment and stuff if these are private lands, so the only thing, Senator, my understanding is, and nobody's answering me yet, on the enforcement for and allowing film productions on private land, and maybe that's why Senator Favela questioned why the Parker Ranch permit process failed.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we have questions from counties here.
So I'm all for keeping our ag land ag because we don't have that much of it. But at the same time, if there's an opportunity, and hopefully maybe not on good ag lands, but an opportunity in private ag lands that we can have a value added type of thing.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree, and I think there are great examples. I know Valea probably, when she has an opportunity to testify, has a lot of experience in the other value adds in places like Scotland, Ireland in particular, and of course, New Zealand with Lord of the Rings. So there is, it kind of ties into your earlier bill in a sense.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
we're here to work together to make this a streamlined process.
All right, thank you so much. And we'll call the next testifier then, Sitting County of Honolulu, Alvalea Constantinau. Did I pronounce that well? Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Valea Constantino, Film Commissioner, circa 1880, with the City and County of Honolulu. So we ran into this problem about 20 years ago. There was a television series that was looking to recreate South America here. And we had a very forward-thinking planning and permitting director at the time, and a really sharp staff. And they included within the city ordinances something I included in my testimony, which is a temporary use ordinance, 21-1.6, so that film production could fall under this temporary use and so that it could be controlled. The other thing that the city and county already had in place was what they call a TUA, a temporary use approval process, and that's what we've always used. It allows the production company to fill out, I think it used to be a 3-page free-form kind of form, where they would answer all the different questions so that an assessment of the impact to the land, to the neighboring areas, could all be taken into account, and then we could craft something that's very specific to what that specific ask was. Most of the time, what hits that is if there's a reality show, they violate the zoning laws, because the county zoning laws don't allow more than 5 unrelated people to live in a house. And oftentimes, reality shows have a little bit more than that. So it allowed us to address what would otherwise be askew in the zoning law, put guardrails on it, and manage it as a city. So we have perhaps a good pathway forward that we're happy to share with the other counties. And I do see it as a really valuable ancillary activity for our farmers, ranchers. I have a couple of real-world examples that I can share. When we were trying to put together that series that was set in South America, they happened upon a farmer who was in central Oahu, and I mean, literally, he was days away from filing bankruptcy. Here comes this production company who asked if they can use a small portion of the land. They wanted to put a set there, and it was going to do so much good to this small farmer. It was going to help ABC run this series. And that really got that gentleman out of the red, and he's still operating that farm today. It's one of the things that I really like to do. The other example that I have of that is sometimes it can help the state overall. When H3 was built, the banana growers from Luluku area, they got sort of redistributed to Maunawili. And we had a TV series come in. They wanted to build what looked like a 1960s Vietnam set. And we were in the middle of this terrible bunchy top virus with the bananas. And the banana growers, they were being told they had to eradicate their livelihood. And here comes this production company who says, oh, can we, remove a bunch of your banana plants because we want to build this set? And that solved a huge problem because they helped to eradicate the bunchy top virus. They gave the farmers the money that they otherwise would have to lose for that. Now, unfortunately, the series was kind of junk, didn't take off, so the set got removed, and now they're growing back, fresh bananas. But it's a really interesting partnership that can benefit each other. So I just encourage you to have discussions with the different agencies, and whatever is successful here that we've been able to figure out, we're happy to share so that everyone can contribute to that success statewide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions with regards to the city and county? Farm Bureau sends comments. Kendrick Farm. They said they were going to be here in person. Tui Anna Scanlon sends communication in support. Zachary Kamen, opposition. We do have a number of, a total of 15 people in support. Yeah, is that Kendo? Hawaii County?
Yeah, Zendo,
Yes.
I'm here.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, proceed, Kendo.
Okay, aloha, chair, members. Zendo Kern, Planning Director for Hawaii County. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. We're in support and maybe some comments and slight opposition in one way. So we in Hawaii County believe that the short-term activity for filming should be a permissible use within Chapter 205 by way of the state permit. The testimony that the Honolulu Office of Filming sent in their last paragraph, where they request an exemption for the film industry, which is included in the appropriate chapter of HRS 205 that clarifies it as allowable use and requires a permit from the appropriate state or county film office That's what we would like to see moving forward. I think it's important that it be clarified in HRS 205 because what we end up dealing with is a lot of gray areas and trying to work with the film industry. Now, I believe that with that, there needs to be BMPs, best management practices, and making sure that, things are cleaned up and everything is respected. When it comes to a long-term permitting or filming endeavor, that would be by way of a special permit that would then set it up for a long-term allowable use. And if it's less than 15 acres, that could be processed at the county level. If it's greater than 15 acres, it would be processed at the state level. And that's very similar to what Kualoa Ranch has on Oahu. So I think there's two mechanisms. There's one for long-term filming and there's one for short-term filming. The short-term filming, again, we believe it should be a use by way of allowed in 205, film permit, BMPs. But if you require a special permit for that, it'll just take away everything. The special permit process is very long and arduous, and it's not really conducive for the filming industry. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes. Zendo, Hawaii County, and question was raised. We understand that the counties don't issue film permits for private property. Is that true?
We're working with R&D and our filming representative to have them approve it and issue a type of permit that we're still in the process of working with them on. So they go through R&D and the film person, and we issue their approval. They check with us. We look at the land use, and then we give guidance from there. But it's not clear when it comes to HRS 205.
So that's your issues, the county's issues with regards to 205.
No, the HRS 205
Because you're in control, you're the ones that doing the permitting for your county, and hopefully there's enforcements that go with your permits as well, so.
We're enforcing, but that's where it gets very gray. That's where it gets very challenging. Because yes, we're trying to administer that, but if you look at Chapter 205, short-term filming is not a permittable use within there. So we get into conflict with HRS and then our county code and our county zoning and what we'd like to see. So we try to administer it to the best of our ability at the county level to minimize any impact to the neighbors, to make sure that they honor the temporary nature of it and clean up anything that they have to do. But it's still a point of contention. And that's why
Do you have some amendments that we could use as a recommendation to look
yeah,
at?
I would honestly, the final paragraph of what City and County Honolulu office sent in for their testimony, I believe really hits the nail on the head for the temporary nature, where it says create an exemption for the film industry and it's included in the appropriate chapter of HRS 205, so that'd be 205-4.5.
Which one is reading it? It's not on mine though. I got, it doesn't
It
say.
was submitted late.
This last year.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
And then we can work with our filming commissioners as we're doing right now to make sure that we have best management practices to ensure that everything is cleaned up and everything is honored. And if somebody wants to go long-term on it and really create that as a value add for their farm, then we can go through the special use permit process, which would set them up for long-term use with conditions.
Yeah. Members, we were discussing a lot of the county's responsibility, and now that we have Kendall Cern, probably the only one in the administration side that could respond. Any questions? Okay. And I hope you heard our discussions prior to you on Zoom.
Yes, Chair, I've been listening.
Okay, any recommendations or comments you'd like to add?
Really, I think that what we've been hearing from the film office, we're in alignment with. I think having the best management practices is really important that we can develop at the county level. And then I think really that clarity, the distinction between short-term and long-term, I think is really, really important.
There's
And-
also recommendation that we delete the population recognition of 500 or less, but there's also recommendation that we include the statewide instead of doing the population. Because I think if we're creating additional rules or laws to chapters, it should apply to everyone.
That would make sense. I really honestly try to stick to Hawaii County where I have jurisdiction and try not to impose my thoughts onto other counties. I'll leave that. to the will.
Understand, but that's something for us to make that decision. Okay, hearing no comments, no further questions, Senator, no?
Chair,
Yes, Senator Favela. Is that to Hawaii County?
AG,
Okay. I don't think we have Attorney.
sorry, agriculture.
Thanks, Zendo, for being on. Aloha.
Mahalo.
Again, I just going to ask the same question on top, and then I ask the second question. Will this allowable use in this bill have any negative impacts on agricultural lands?
I don't think this bill will, other than maybe tying a few people up in additional advisory meetings. But we do appreciate ensuring that agriculture has a voice, especially because this could be a great possibility of income for some of our farmers as secondary income. But we don't see tremendous damage that could be done with this.
And then right now, we at, what is any oversight on Coolor Ranch filming set, like how we just was talking about, on the pieces or in the location there? What is the oversight on that?
The city does issue the special permits, or I'm sorry, the other type of permitting that Valet was mentioning. Yes, for their use of that. But actually, that's a tremendous example, I think, of the blending of agriculture and agritourism, including kind of this subset of film use of their vast lands, where you see I think it's like the big King Kong, but there's cattle right around it grazing. So perfect mix.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. We do have 15 supporters on this measure, 2 in opposition. Is there anyone else wishes to speak to SB 2789? Okay, hearing none, then we'll proceed with the next measure, SB 3060, and this is relating to a climate adaptation and resilience implementation plan. Office of Planning, Mary Alice, or, yes, we have one of our experts here. Okay.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. My name is Danielle Bass. I'm the State Sustainability Coordinator on behalf of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Happy Valentine's Day, and we want to mahalo you for hearing this administrative bill. Our office is in the strongest support of this measure. Currently, there is no comprehensive statewide climate adaptation resiliency implementation plan. And so we find this to be a proactive measure for our state, specifically our agency, as well as the state sustainability branch, to work on measures for more climate adaptation, sustainable developments, and resilience for the future of our state. I'm available for any questions. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you very much. DBED. Okay, sends communication in support. Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. American Flood Coalition Action, Melissa Roberts in support. Jacqueline Ambrose and Melissa May in support. Is there anyone else wishes to speak to SB 3060? Members, any questions? Okay, hearing none. See, you did a good job. Thank you. All right, we'll proceed to SB 2811. This is relating to agriculture tourism. Make state agriculture tourism requirements applicable to all counties instead of only counties that have adopted an agriculture tourism ordinance. Similar issues, I guess. Department of Ag.
We stand on our written comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Office of Planning, Mary Alice, or someone else will, okay.
Good afternoon.
Got all your players here, great.
Katia Balaciano with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We did submit comments. We have some concerns. We believe that the agritourism activities should be governed by the counties and not rules that are set by the Land Use Commission. Land Use Commission has no enforcement ability. We also are a little concerned about the new proposal to have it regulated through Chapter 343. And we would suggest that if you wanted to go in this direction, that Chapter 343 would have to be amended. And then finally, we think that there's an ability to streamline it a little and combine agricultural tourism activities with agricultural tourism. Those two are currently have separate definitions, and it creates a little confusion between the two. But I'm available for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Farm Bureau, communications with comments. Luann Mahiki Langford Favorito in support. Kathleen Pahinui in opposition. Is there anyone else wishes to speak to SB 2011? Hearing none. Members, any questions on this measure?
Question, yeah.
Senator Favela. The Department of Ag?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I had to look.
I was gonna call you AG again.
As long as the
I don't
pay
know if
comes.
that's a promotion or a demotion, so anyway. Again, the thing is, what kind of impact on the farmers? Farming?
Thank you, sorry, Dexter Kishida, Department of Agriculture. We don't see in this really direct impact on the farmers because it's just clarifying, and I feel in the legal documents what activities are happening. So maybe in some ways it might simplify things because it'll be a little easier to read for folks to understand as well. So we don't have any major concern.
So the thing was brought up because the next question is, how you guys going to do the enforcement? So she already was saying that the Land Use Commission don't have an enforcement mechanism. So how is this going to work out in the enforcement, which we have a little problem in enforcing, you know that?
We have heard today, definitely. Then, again, enforcement relies on the counties, and they have home rule on that. So they would be the ones to enforce.
So would the counties be working with the city in adopting these rules of jurisdiction on this?
Correct. That's what would be instructed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
City, county? I mean, I'm sorry. My brain needed a bit of kind of, who came up before? Yeah, you, sorry. So I'm not good at
Yeah,
names.
Office of Planning.
Office of Planning, something like that.
Katia
Okay.
Balaciano.
Okay, so what were you just saying earlier, so we can get clarification, that you're saying that the Land Use Commission doesn't have the enforcement
Yes.
mechanism that you are suggesting in your, I guess, comments to refer to back to the city?
Well, currently, the counties have the ability to set standards associated with agricultural tourism, and I believe that many of them already do. But what this proposal suggests is that the Land Use Commission would set up new rules to govern agricultural tourism. So that's really the big difference. We're not adding new categories of what's allowed in the agricultural district, but rather we're creating an opportunity for the Land Use Commission to create rules to govern these existing activities. And that's where I would suggest that the LUC doesn't have inspectors, it doesn't have enforcement. So even if you're a little wary about the county's ability to enforce, certainly the Land Use Commission doesn't have the staff, the resources, the tools to do the enforcement. So if they set up the rules and then aren't the ones to enforce, it's difficult.
Okay, now city, county, please, Chair. Okay, yeah,
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes,
oh, sorry, Chair. Go ahead.
I'll use it real quick. So has the counties asked you to adopt these rules? I mean, requested you adopt these statewide rules? Has the county asked that of LUC?
First of all, I'm not with
yeah, sorry,
I'm not
sorry.
with the Land Use Commission. We're connected to the Land Use Commission through DVED and through
You guys all starting to
OPSD.
look alike right now after. Okay, thank you, sorry.
All right,
Don't
okay,
worry, Senator, I know the feeling.
okay.
Sitting on So with that being said, I'm not sure how this bill is gonna move forward, but is there gonna be any, between the agencies, try to collaborate so that, we have this bill, it seems to be great, but if we have no enforcement and no bite, there's no reason for the bill. So did you guys, I don't know, I didn't see a written testimony. Did you guys make some suggestions to the bill?
You didn't just testify on this measure.
That's why I was asking the question.
But I didn't testify on
Yeah,
this
you didn't.
particular
Oh,
measure.
serious? Well,
I
you
was,
guys
I
have
was
any
only
written
talking about
comments?
Yeah.
only about the film
Yeah,
stuff.
because the tourism and how they're talking about tourism, what I'm saying is that, take back what you're hearing from the land use, the agriculture, and then the city having a part of this whole collaboration. Do you see any way that the city gonna be able to work with the land use to find some kind of common ground for the enforcement? I understand you're doing the film, but it's almost similar to what you guys doing with the agriculture. We just want to make sure that we're not creating bills that not gonna have any enforcement. You know what I mean? So that's my comment, pretty much. You don't have to answer. and that's
I
okay.
understand, Senator. The best example I can give is what we as a city did with the state on Monday. There was a filming on Kalanianoli Highway, and there's adjacencies of city land as well as state land, and we worked very closely together to make sure that the production company could utilize the city land for the staging and the turnaround and the base camp, and then the state land. And that's part of the agreement that is in process right now, formalizing how we work together. I'm certainly able to go back and share this information with people at the city, but I think it's beyond my scope to comment for my counterparts at this point.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yes, and I think, I believe this measure, members as well, is having the land use take over this oversight in agriculture, and that's why there's some oppositions to this measure with the appropriate body. I'm surprised that we didn't hear from Land Use Commission today, so I'm sure they would not.
Well, let me ask a quick question of the Department of Ag. Just jump in real quick, Dexter, if you don't mind. Just because this came up in my head, we've had this on several bills. These are state things, we can't enforce it, we need the county enforce. And the county enforces through inspectors, right? How come we don't have state inspectors? Going out, assessing state rules, assessing state fines, which would then pay for the inspectors to go out and do the enforcement.
Well, I would defer to my counterparts at Land Use Commission for some of the nuance. In general, the counties are the ones that really implement the boots on the ground stuff around development, versus the state is creating more of the general overarching rules that the state wants for everyone. So for the department, that is an interesting question that you raised, that is there some responsibility that the department should have, and then being equipped to do so?
Well, violations occurring to a
Right.
state thing, and the state inspector comes out and they fine them. And then part of that fine would go to pay for the inspectors. But now the state has an enforcement mechanism. This seems to run up on the rocks all the time of the county enforcing state law.
And this is where, though, there very clear articulation will need to be done on what is county versus state, to ensure there's no either overlap or weird mismatch of where enforcement is happening. But I understand what you're saying.
Just a thought. Thanks, Chairman.
All right, yes, so if we can, limit
make it really
ours,
quick.
we have one more measure, and I
So,
think there's a joint after this.
Dexter, well, in our case, Maui County created their own Department of Ag,
Right.
which they have enforcement. So I agree with with the senator from Lahaina, is why hasn't the state looked at creating their own inspectors to enforce, basically.
Senator
exact
was
same
saying, right? I can't speak to the past. It is something I can definitely look into this year and articulate with the counties. Again, we don't want to overstep. That has been their responsibility, but with Maui Department of Ag, this does get to interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll continue on to the end of the agenda. Members, we do have another joint hearing with another committee as well. So let's hurry on to complete SB 2659 relating to regenerative tourism. And let's call upon HTA.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony to support this bill for regenerative tourism.
Oh, sorry, this was, yeah, okay, go ahead. EET-LEET, I'm
And-
sorry.
And we support the efforts of moving us towards the tourism in Hawaii to a more regenerative tourism model. We want to comment that if there's increase in any kuleana or activities, that we are also adequately resourced, such as studies, etc. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up, Mary Alice Evans with Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Aloha chairs, again, Danielle, not Mary Alice. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development supports this measure. We strongly support the update of the state tourism functional plan, and we are looking forward to working with our tourism partners, inclusive of the HTA. We do suggest one tiny housekeeping amendment to change the actual report's title description to correctly reference our office which is currently referred to as the Office of Planning and Sustainability, to be corrected as the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. I'm available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you for the volume as well as the, straight posture. Love it. Next up, Ted Bolin, in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairs, Ted Boland in support. Regenerative tourism is a good idea. We need to get this on the road. I don't have a lot to say that hasn't already been said, so I'll just indicate my support. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we can recess for decision making.
All right, the Joint Committees on Water and Land and the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism is going into decision-making on its agenda for February 14th, Wednesday. First off, SB 2203, and this is relating to the Land Use Commission. We're recommending that we go with these recommendations. We're going to adopt OPSD's amendments on page 5 on lines 7, 8, and 9 to be amended to read, shall apply only to the county that has adopted ordinances regulating agricultural tourism. We're going to remove the population requirement for the counties that have a population of 500,000 or more. When the counties choose to adopt ag tourism ordinances, they must also include the following features drawn from HRS 205, that's 4.5, as well as on 13 and 14. The agriculture tourism is conducted on or coexist with a farming operation or bona fide agriculture activity. And secondly, agricultural tourism activity is accessory and secondary to the principal agriculture use, does not interfere with surrounding farm operations. And we're going to reflect in the committee report there needs to be more enforcement action taken by the counties regarding unregulated ag tourism activities, and that agricultural tourism enforcement is borne on the counties. Okay? Any discussions on these amendments for the committee? That's okay with the committee? Okay, for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation then is to pass SB 2203 with amendments. Vice Chair, for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2203 with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang. Senator McKelvey.
Yes.
Senator Favela. Madam Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for EAT, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes yes. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Kim.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Oh,
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Okay, for SB 2789 relating to land use, chairs are recommending that we defer this indefinitely, and we're also understanding that per the city and county's testimony, this measure does not account for the temporary nature of film production and a face pest of the industry. So we'll be deferring this measure. Agreeable with EET? Okay, we'll proceed with SB 3060, and this is the Climate Adaptation Resilience Plan, where Chair's recommendation is to pass with the amendments. We're going to blank the appropriation on page 4. We'll adopt technical and non-substantive amendments. We'll defer the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussions? Hearing none for the Committee on Water and Land. Recommendation is to pass 3060, SB 3060 with amendments. Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 3060 with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang. Senator McKelvey.
Yes.
Senator Favela.
aye.
Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Noting the presence of all members, any opposition or reservations to the chair's recommendation, we pass this measure with amendments. Having seen and heard none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For SB 2811, Chair's recommendation is to defer this indefinitely. This measure is similarly to the first one that we just passed, SB 2203. Okay.
Thank you. And then moving on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2659 relating to regenerative tourism. Recommendation is to pass as an SD1, making technical, non-substantive, substantive amendments for clarity and consistency, noting in the report, committee report, tech amendments that covers OPSD's request for the name correction in the report title. Any discussion? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Noting the presence of all EET members, any opposition or reservations to the chair's recommendation, we pass this measure with amendments. Having seen and heard none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Okay, for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation is the same, to pass SB 2659 with amendments. Any discussions, Water Land? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2659 with amendments, noting all members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, and this concludes the joint Committee on Water and Land and the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you bought your honey some flowers and work on that strut like Danielle has it today. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. Triple joint hearing with the Committee on Agriculture and Environment and the Committee on Water and Land, 1:45 p.m. agenda. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event we have to abruptly end this hearing, which are not because we got things to do. Due to technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 1 p.m. So we're gonna move into decision-making on Senate Bill 2499 relating to a program to characterize carbon sequestration potential and underground water resources statewide. Sorry, not hearing. Yes, a hearing, sorry. I really wanted to go home or no.
I second that motion.
So in the event, so we have a
They're all waiting to test.
hump day Wednesday. Sorry about that. Psych. Okay, first one up, Chief Energy Officer Mike Click testifying for State Energy Office.
Take your time, Mark, you got 30 minutes.
Senator DeCoit, Chair, Vice Chair, Chairs, Vice Chairs, members of the Joint Committee. The Hawaii, Mark Lick for the Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand by our strong support for Senate Bill 2499, this important resource characterization bill to get us back on track towards getting greater use of geothermal throughout the state and understanding the resource. But it also tells us where the water resources are, as well as the heat resources and sequestration opportunities. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Michael Minikata with Ulupono Initiative.
Vice Chairs, Ulupono will send us testimony strong support.
Thank you. Next up, Noel Morin for Sustainable Energy Hawaii in support. Ted Bolin, Climate Protectors of Hawaii in support. We're on Senate Bill 2499. Thank you. Next up, Richard Ha in support. Jacqueline Ambrose in support. Alice Kim in support. Stanley Osserman in support. Sheila Levine in opposition, and Regina Gregory in opposition. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, any questions for the committees? Wow, seeing none, let's go to decision making. Okay. So we're ready to do a decision making on our 145 agenda. My recommendation is to pass as an SD1, making techno substantive amendments for clarity and consistency. Committee members, any discussion? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes yes. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Kim.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Quinn.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Alwa is excused. Chair, you have 4 in favor, motion is adopted.
Thank you,
For
members.
the Committee on Water and Land, same recommendation to pass with amendments. Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2499 with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang. Senator McKelvey.
Yes.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Done?
With that, we are adjourned. Thank you and happy Valentine's Day.
All right, good afternoon, members. Again, thank you for your patience today. The Committee on Water and Land is going into its deferred measures of Wednesday, February 14th. And just to remind that we need to do housekeeping announcements. This is decision-making only, no testimony is accepted. And the context, including the hearing notice, copies of the bill testimonies can be found on the legislature's website. All right, moving on to SB 2555, and this is relating to state voting facilities. Members, we did hear this measure with many of the oppositions on this measure. So Chair's recommending that we defer this indefinitely. On SB 2721 relating to ocean recreation, this measure, Chair's recommendation is to pass with the amendments, and we'll adopt Zachary LaPrade's amendment that we heard previously to include an intentional state of mind requirement, ensuring that only those who knowingly or willfully violate the rules are subject to the criminal penalties. In this measure, we'll delete any reference to a vessel being subject to penalties, because you only can do penalties to humans and not to the vessel. We'll adopt technical, non-substantive amendments. We'll defect the date to July 1st, 2050, and we'll move this measure along as it goes to judiciary. Okay, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass 2721 with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator McKelvey is excused. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. We'll move on to SB 2156, and this is relating to port infrastructure. Chair's recommendation on this measure is that we pass with the amendments. We'll adopt DLNR's recommendation to replace the language and appropriation regarding a dredging strategy plan with a recurring annual general fund appropriation of $3 million to be expended on the maintenance dredging work. Any discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2156 with amendments of the 4 members present on water and land. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. SB 2157, and this is relating to the vessels. This is the one that we had requesting rental kayaks to be numbered and permitting, and Chair's recommendation is to defer this indefinitely. Okay. With regards to 2050, relating to the marine life conservation districts, Chair's recommendation on this measure, is to pass with the amendments, and we'll just defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2050 with amendments of the 4 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. For SB 2057, Chair's recommendation that we pass this measure with the amendment just effecting the date to July 1st, 2050. And it is noted in the bill that one of the conditions is that the County of Hawaii has to contribute to matching funds for this measure. Okay, Chair, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2057 with amendments of the 4 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. On SB 2182 relating to ocean stewardship, Chair recommends that we pass this measure as is. Okay, any discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2182 as is, noting the presence of Senator McKelvey of the 5 members present on water, land. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. On SB 2183 relating to restoration of beachlands, Chair's recommendation that we approve this measure with these amendments. We'll adopt OPSD's recommended amendments to the definition of the beach restoration. And one is to, on page 2, line 19, we're going to add and restoration and dune vegetation. And then on page 3, line 1, we're going to delete the abandoned man-made remnants and replace it with abandoned on beaches and dunes. And on page 3, line 2, we'll replace an ecosystem with the words and coastal ecosystems. And we'll defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Okay, any discussions? Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2183 with amendments of the 5 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. On SB 513 relating to fish ponds, Chair's recommendation is we pass this with the amendments. We're adopting amendments that were made for another measure, which is HB 2626, which included deleting the purpose section, as we did hear from testifiers that they like the language in there better. We'll adopt amendments addressing DLNR's concerns, deleting the language that would have required the Board of Land and Natural Resources to implement a standard lease application and programmatic environmental impact statement to streamline the leasing process for government-owned Hawaiian fish ponds and all its related language. And will specify certain findings the BLNR must make for a lease of a government-owned fish pond, and will delete the appropriation section and will defect the date to July 1st, 2050, also adopting technical and non-substantive amendments. Any discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 513 with amendments of the 5 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you. SB 2296 relating to fish ponds. Chair's recommendation, we pass with the amendment that just defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2296 with amendments of the 5 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, SB 3167, and this is relating to the Pacific Marine Fisheries Compact. Chair's recommendation is to pass with an amendment and to recognize at least one commissioner shall have knowledge of Native Hawaiian cultural fishing practices and shall serve as a representative of the Native Hawaiian fishing community and will defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Okay, any discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 3167 with amendments of the 5 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. SB 3268 relating to aquatic resources. This prohibits any law, if we remember, or the rule for establishing restrictions on the type of gear. We had many in opposition to this measure, and Chair's recommendation is that we defer this. Okay. On SB 3168, this is the taking of marine deposits. Chair's recommendation is that we pass just with the amendment defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Okay. Any discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 3168 with amendments of the 5 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you. This, I believe, is the end of today's agenda for the Committee on Water and Land. We do have tomorrow several, I think it starts from 9:30. That's a joint? CPN, okay? And the normal, after that, do we have a 1 o'clock?
We have a deferred game at 1 for the Ohio bill, and then at 3 we have joints with GDO.
Okay, all right, this concludes the deferred agenda for the Committee on Water and Land.